Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Abundance 1010. We are excited and we are here. Now you can see us. You can see us. So this is something new for us. Mathisa, how's it going over there?
Oh my goodness. So here we are. And for those who are listening via a regular podcast platform, you're going to say, what are they talking about? Now you can see us. So we've just launched our YouTube channel. And so now not only are you going to hear us, you can actually see us and see what we look like and just gain a better understanding of who we are. So how am I doing, Vimbai? I am doing well. I feel like it's been a long time since we've had our last episode of season 1. So we've gone through the holidays. My holidays were great. I had a week of doing nothing. And it was like, oh my gosh, like,
Ooh.
Yeah, it was almost too much rest for me. It was kind of weird. And now, we're in February. We went through New Year's Eve, and now we're in February. I can't believe we're in February. So
yeah,
I am very much.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's a bit of a delay. I'm very much looking forward to just what this year has in store, and I'm ready to kick off this season with you again.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure. I would have loved to have a week like you did, a week of nothing. My holidays were kind of busy. They were, I do have to say that it was more of a laid back Christmas for us. We didn't go over the top or do anything extravagant or anything like that. It was just a close knit family, my kids, my sister and I. And we just had a very low key Christmas. But the holidays, there's this busyness that's surrounding the holidays that you tend to feel. And so I felt that. And then come January and it's everything again. It's back to school. It's because over here, the school year begins in January for kids. I'm in Zimbabwe. So January, that's when the kids are getting all their new books, new school supplies. Sometimes it's new uniforms for my kids. They learn from home, so I didn't have to worry about uniforms. But it's just getting back into the hustle and bustle of life again. And then, of course, January is I just find January is a tough month because you're coming out of the holidays, you're trying to find that new rhythm again. And it doesn't really set usually, at least for me, it didn't set until towards the end of January, really.
It's funny you say that. Let me just remind our listeners and now our viewers that Vimbai and I are on different continents. So Vimbai is in Zimbabwe and I am in Canada. So I have children and them going back, yes, there was a readjustment, but it's not the start of the school year. But I can agree with you, Vimbai, that it did take, because I was in this like no work mode, and it wasn't even like it was imposed on me, this no work mode. Everyone was just in a chill mood. But it did take me a couple of weeks to kind of feel like myself again in terms of gaining my rhythm of how I work and just family life and things like that. So it did take a little while. I have to agree with you.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why when we took our break at the end of season 1, we gave ourselves some time to kind of just settle into our routines again before coming back and pumping out some great content, as we are going to do in this episode. Mathisa, what are we talking about?
Ooh, yes, I am excited because we are talking about imposter syndrome. And it is, I was reading something, Vimbai, and I read that about 90% of people, it's probably an American study, but about 90% of people have felt it at some point in their life, imposter syndrome. So we bring this to you because it's so overwhelmingly common, and we ourselves have experienced it and still experience it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Okay, so we've got to be real with you guys because the very fact that we're coming to you on video, we had to overcome some insecurities, and then there's that level of imposter syndrome too, just coming off of our season one, coming in season two, and it's like, okay, we're doing something new. Are we able to do this? Can we do this? So I think there was some aspect of it as well. And so I think imposter syndrome is something, as you mentioned, Mathisa, like a large percentage of people deal with it. And you said, as you were saying, have dealt with it at some point or another. In my mind, I was thinking, oh, people don't deal with this like on a weekly level, because I deal with it almost on a weekly level, to be honest with you.
Okay.
To be quite honest with you, because of the work that I do, I'm constantly doing new projects, right? And so each time I approach a new project, it's like, I can't do it. Can I do it? I don't think I can do it. And then I go into my whole spiral about, thinking I'm this fraud and why are people paying me to do what I'm doing? So I feel that very often, actually. How about you?
So let me just backtrack a little bit. Now, I have done video before in a different way. So on social media, I've been on video, I've done interviews and things like that. But there's a difference this time. And the difference is, and I'll be very transparent, is that right now, I need an implant. I need a tooth implant. And I am so self-conscious about about not having this tooth in place yet. So typically what I would do is wear a retainer. But guess what? I don't like the way I speak with the retainer on, and it's very uncomfortable. So I said to Bimba, I said, you know what? I'm going to forego this retainer, and I'm just going to be my natural self.
Okay. There we go. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Kudos to you, Mathisa.
For anyone, yes. I just have to say, before you give me my kudos, but for anyone who has some insecurity, something they're self-conscious about their appearance, sometimes you just got to get past it because, you have a bigger mission. You have something you need to share, and you don't want that insecurity to be an obstacle to that. So here I am. So you're watching this on YouTube. If you can relate to what I'm saying, put it in the comments, because this is a big deal for me to even show up here without my retainer. But yes, Vimbai, what were you saying?
Yeah. So listeners and viewers, this really it's a big moment, to be quite honest, because we've had a number of conversations about this in the past, as we were talking about the podcast and even with some of the recordings. Sometimes we would listen back and you would bring it up like, oh, I don't like the way I sound with my retainer on. And so, yeah. And so for you to show up and give us a nice, big, beautiful smile, like you just did a few moments ago, that's really good. And that is exactly what it means. Because you're right, Mathisa, oftentimes we hold ourselves back because we're thinking about, this insecurity or that insecurity. And the truth is, that a lot of people don't even notice it. I'm sure people will notice it now because you've said something. But if you hadn't, there probably would have been a lot of people who said, oh, I didn't notice that.
You know what? And I have tested this because I actually don't wear my retainer when I'm in the office during my day job. I don't wear it. And I asked one of my colleagues, I said, do you know that I don't have this tooth? He said, oh my gosh, I didn't really notice. And I said, okay, so maybe it's not so bad. But yes, I mean, obviously I pointed it out now, but I just wanted to share my insecurity with going on YouTube without my retainer.
So for me, one of my insecurities has been that speaking is not really my gift. Speaking in front of people in an audience and all of that is not really my thing. And I don't like to look at myself talking. That was one of my hesitations about coming on video, because when you are editing your podcast, like we've done in season one, like we would record it and then just have the audio, and then we would, edit out what we didn't like. And it's so much because you have control over everything, right? Like you can control, oh, okay, let's cut that out, cut this out, cut this out. And so the idea of coming on video, and we're doing much less editing now.
Yeah.
And I was afraid, oh, I'm going to stumble over my words. Oh, I'm going to stutter. Oh, this and that. So that actually was one of my hesitations when it came to coming and doing the video. So,
and I know that, but I didn't know it in all of the essence that you've just said right now. So, because Vimbai has a way with words. I mean, with your profession, you have a way with words. But I suppose that speaking is a different medium. It's a different way of delivering these words. So,
well, that's the thing. It's true, because when you're writing, you have time to, rewrite, perfect your sentences and all of that. And you can't really do that in real time. You really have to think on the fly. And I remember so something my dad said to me, because I would say to him often, oh, I'm not a speaker. I don't speak, because anytime an opportunity would come up for me to speak, whether it be during a church program or some other platform, and I would say to my dad, oh, I can't, I'm not a speaker. And he would say, just like God asked Adam in the Garden of Eden, he would say, who told you can't speak? Who told you that?
Yeah.
Just like God asked Adam, who told you were naked?
Yeah.
And so, so that's something I'm trying to overcome. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe this is the starting point to something where I can just gain that confidence to just speak on the fly and just let the words fall as they may.
Let them just fall out your mouth. And this is why I want to remind our listeners and our viewers that Vimbai and I did say in season 1, we are on this journey with you of how to live an abundant life. And part of that living an abundant life is discovering and untapping gifts that you didn't know that you had. Yes. So for us, doing this is it's getting us out of our comfort zone, and it's really going to harness and strengthen untapped gifts. So we are on this journey with you of living an abundant life. So, but do you want to get into, let's get back to imposter syndrome, Vimbai. And so we talked about how imposter syndrome is feeling like you feel like you're a fraud, you feel like you are a poser, you feel like your success was just by luck. You don't deserve it. Somehow you didn't earn it. And I wanted to read a quote here by Melanie Lopez. She's an American psychotherapist. And she says that people who suffer from imposter syndrome often are quite skilled and competent at what they do and consistently striving to be better and achieve more. So it's not about reality. It's what is in our head. So we may think we're a fraud, but in actuality, we could be quite good at what we're doing. So this is a very interesting phenomenon that way.
It's a very interesting phenomenon because I think, as you mentioned earlier, remember, what did you see? I think you said 90% of people have experienced imposter syndrome. And this includes people who we consider very successful. We look up to them and we're like, oh my goodness, I wish I could achieve a quarter or, just a minor bit of what they have accomplished. And yet they themselves are not immune to the imposter syndrome. I love that quote that you read, because it's most of the times it's people who are skilled, people who know what they're doing. They're experts. And we have examples of people like that. There are, for example, there are three women who I'm going to touch on a little bit. We have Arianna Huffington. Many of us know her to be the co-founder of the Huffington Post. Right. And she's also founder and CEO of Thrive Global. She's an author of 15 books. And she had something to say. And I think it's quite surprising what she had to say about imposter syndrome. I'm just going to pull that up quickly. Hang with us, viewers and listeners. So, this is what she had to say. She said, "The greatest obstacle for me has been the voice in my head that I
Mm.
call my obnoxious roommate." I, I wish someone would invent a tape recorder that we could attach to our brains to record everything we tell ourselves. We would realize how important it is to stop this negative self talk. It means pushing back against our obnoxious roommate with a dose of wisdom. Because it is, when you think about it, it really is unreasonable, the things that we doubt. The imposter syndrome itself, it's very unreasonable and it doesn't make sense. But when we're talking to ourselves, we let that voice take control sometimes.
Oh my goodness. And that is actually like a skill in and of itself, to be able to recognize the negative self-talk and combat it with empowering words to ourselves and empowering self-talk. So that is a skill, but we have to recognize what it is when it's happening.
When it's happening.
When it's
Yeah.
happening.
I'm going to read one more quote by the great late Dr. Maya Angelou.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know her to be the civil rights activist, author, poet, and she wrote in a quote, I don't know where she said it, but she did say, "I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out." Isn't that crazy though, when you think about it, to think that somebody of her caliber had such thoughts after 11 books?
After 11 books. She's one of the most quoted figures of all time, right? And for her to actually think that, you say, wow, if someone of her caliber, someone who has achieved so much success, can feel that way, very similar to what I'm feeling right now, perhaps this is something that I need to reframe.
Yeah,
this is something that we need to reframe and get past.
Yes, and get past it. So now, I think one of the leading questions that some people may have is, well, how do I know whether what I'm feeling is imposter syndrome? Okay. And there are different ways that it shows up. There are what they call the 5 types. So there are 5 types of imposter syndrome, and maybe you can relate to one of these. And with these, maybe you can tell me if one of these resonates with you. There's one here that I know. Actually, there's more than one that I know is me. So there's the perfectionist, there is the expert, there is the natural genius, there's the soloist, and the Superman. Now, this is all by a researcher named Dr. Valerie Young. And so I'm going to explain each one just briefly so we have an idea of what each of them means. Yeah. So the perfectionist is, so these are people who, unless they get things perfect, unless they're completely accurate in whatever it is that they're doing, if they miss that mark even slightly, they will consider themselves a fraud. They'll believe like I'm just no good. So they'll go to the opposite end. So they didn't get this thing done perfectly. So they'll go and say, "Oh, I'm no good at all."
Okay,
so that's the perfectionist. That's not you.
That one. No. I will tell you flat out. No, it's not.
That's not you. Okay. All right. I think I have my moments when I am. That one is not the dominant one for me, though. It's here. It's there. Here. It's here. A little bit here and there, but that's not the one that usually rears its ugly head for me. So number 2, the expert. So this person feels as though that if they do not know everything about a particular topic or their area of expertise, their career or whatever it is they do well, if they don't know everything about that subject, then they feel like they haven't mastered it all and they're not an expert. And because they're not an expert, they're a fraud.
This one is what I resonate with completely.
Yeah.
This has been the one that has reared its ugly head for me. And when we go into our personal experience with imposter syndrome, you'll understand why. But this is the one for me that resonates the most. Well, so far.
But you know what, Mathisa, as you say that, this is something for me too, because I hate saying I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like saying I don't know. So if somebody asks me something, and I don't know the answer, that's a struggle for me.
That's a struggle for you. Okay, interesting.
Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So the next one is the natural genius. So this type of imposter syndrome is when someone may feel like because they're not naturally intelligent or competent in a certain area, and because they have to study really hard to grasp something, and it doesn't come naturally to them, then they feel like, oh, I'm an imposter.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's this idea when you're really good at something, and you feel like if you have to work really hard at being good at what you do, then somehow that takes away from you being great.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's part of me too.
But it's, you know what though? The thing is that when you get to a certain level of success, there is diligence, there is a lot of effort that needs to be put into that, whatever it is. Because you can have, you have this talent or something, but if you don't foster and you don't nurture it and you don't put work behind it, it's just not going to really fly. But I can see that. That's an interesting type of imposter syndrome.
But you know what I think is really interesting about that too, is that I think it's because we have, I won't just say social media, but we often see people at their best, right? So if you see somebody, let's talk about the Olympics, we see all those, let's say swimmers, like Michael Phelps or somebody like that. It looks so easy. It looks like swimming is just effortless for him, right? And yet we don't see. Yeah, he came out the womb swimming, right? And yet we don't see the hours and hours and hours of work each day that he puts into being great at what he does. So when you see somebody up there performing or doing whatever they're doing and they're great at it, because we don't see all of the things and all of the hard work that went into it, we just tend to think, oh, they're just so good at it. It's just so easy for them. So why is it hard for me to do what I do? Why do I have to put so much work into it? And so, I think that's the hard part. Or even when it comes to social media, we often see like the successful entrepreneurs, right? And it looks like they have everything all together. If they're a speaker, they're flawless. The delivery is perfect. And then you wonder, well, why do I have to spend so much time? And so it makes you feel like, okay, I'm incompetent then.
Well, the thing is, we're seeing the end result. We're not seeing the process. People have to remember there's a process that goes behind all of this. And when you just see the result, it's like, oh, wow, they're such a natural. No, they had to be trained for years. They had to put so much time into this. People who speak, who are like wonderful, like amazing public speakers, have had to practice that. Maybe some more than others, but still, they had to practice that over a period of time. And
yes,
the beautiful thing is about skills is that often, when the more you do it, the better you get over time.
Yes. So we have to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So number 4 is the soloist. So this one is interesting as well, because it is, so people who feel like they have to reach out to ask for help. and they're not able to do certain things on their own or reach a certain level of success or a status. They're not able to achieve that without, reaching out or tapping into their social network or their or professional network or whatever it is. They've got to reach out and get help from somebody else to kind of connect the dots and help them get along there. So, yeah, so the fact that they couldn't do it on their own, just relying on their own personal resource, then it makes them feel like, oh, I'm not competent.
That is interesting. I think I can resonate with that to a lesser degree, but yeah, I can see that because you think, well, okay, if you, for example, let's say you've gotten a new job, you have a new position at work, and you think, okay, well, I've earned it because I've gone through the hiring process, but now here I am, and I need to reach out to people to kind of help me with my work, help me do better. And oh my goodness, what if they make a mistake? I thought, like, they told me that I can be this position X, I'm in this position, but yet now I'm having to reach out to so-and-so and this person, that person, because I'm trying to understand my role better.
Yeah.
So I can see that one, and I can resonate with that one a little bit too.
Yeah. So then the last one is the super person. So this type of imposter syndrome is when someone believes that they have to be the hardest working person out there. If they're not always pushing past the point of the breaking point, I'll say, if they're not going hard all the time and somebody's putting in more hours, or they perceive that somebody's putting in more work than they are, then they think that, oh, I'm just not worthy to be in the position that I'm in. And so then they begin to think that, oh, I just don't have the chops to be great at what I do.
That is very interesting. This is actually very enlightening, because I didn't realize that there are different types of imposter syndrome. And if you right now are watching this, and if you are brave enough and you want to share with us the type that resonates with you, feel free to put in the comments. For me, I can say it's expert. That's the one that I can say for sure that I have suffered from previously, and sometimes still suffer from. But
yeah, I would say for me, so it's the expert, the natural genius, a little bit of the soloist sometimes. I'm almost all of these, especially 4 of the 5 of these are me.
They're you, eh?
Yeah, 4 of the 5 are me. So me, it's not so much the super person. I think at a certain stage in life, super person, yes, was part of it, but not anymore. But the other 4, yeah, I can identify with them.
Oh, interesting. So, Vimbai, I mean, this podcast that we have is for Christian women. And we know that there's so much power in God's word. There's so much wisdom. There's so much practical things that we can apply to our own life when we're kind of experiencing some of these things. And I just wanted to highlight a Bible verse, and it's taken from 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. And it says, "We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ." So when the thought of imposter syndrome takes you captive, you take them captive. And that's kind of what I was talking about before. You have to recognize what's happening. You have to recognize that repetitive negative self-talk, and you have to be able to recognize it and then and stop it. Realize what it is and take it captive, because it should not be taking over your mind. It should not be taking over your mind. So that is a verse from God's word that I will be using when I actually am experiencing imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's a great one. It is important that we realize that we're not victims of our thoughts, right? And sometimes we think we are. Like, we have the power. we have the power to take charge, as you said, of our thoughts and control what gets airtime, right, in our head.
Yeah.
And what gets it, because and I've been trying to do that a little bit more deliberately now, making sure that, okay, just because I have a thought that comes in, it doesn't mean that I have to now let that thought run wild and convince my whole self that I am inadequate. No,
Yeah.
I have the power to cast that out and then replace that with something I know to be true.
Exactly. Something that you
And
know to be
God's word
true.
is a perfect way. Yeah, and God's word is filled. There's so many verses. You shared that one, and I'm going to go to one of the very popular verses that we have, Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's not some things, it's all things
All
through
things. Yes, all
Christ.
things. That's
Yes.
right.
And so, and imposter syndrome, I think, is a sign of when you're growing and it's uncomfortable and you're not sure whether you are competent enough to go to the next level. And we have to remind ourselves that we can do all things through Christ.
We can do all things through Christ. And we have to remember that there are some gifts that we each have that it is our responsibility to grow and to nurture. And so oftentimes that will include us having to step out and do things that are not really the typical thing. And yeah, that discomfort precedes growth. And so I think we have to remember that we have gifts and we have responsibility to grow them and to share them with others. And so
So you want to talk about stepping out? You just talked. We can segue into you stepping out and doing something new.
I was just about to do that, Vimbai. So I'm glad that you're giving me this segue. I was just about to talk about that. Because I said the expert type of imposter syndrome is what speaks to me the most, because I for years I would do editorial work for others, and it occurred to me not too long ago that, my goodness, I can monetize this skill. This isn't a real profession, of course it is, and I can actually launch my own side business in editing. And so, of course, I took, a couple of courses to get myself trained. And even though I did that, and even though I know I have a knack for doing that, I quote unquote knack, there are times where I'm like, I feel uncomfortable calling myself an editor, because I said, this feels a bit weird, because it's still fairly new, even though I have been doing that for a handful number of years. And so I feel like, if I'm calling myself this, then I'm calling myself an expert. I have an expertise in this area, and I don't know everything. And it's funny, because one of the courses that I took said, you're not going to know everything. You're not. But when you don't know something, what do? How do you
You find
find
out.
a solution? Yeah. How do you find a solution to what you don't know? Which one person knows everything? Like, it's just not possible, right? So
Yeah.
it's about recognizing that, no, I don't know everything, and I'm getting better with it each and every time. But I don't have to feel insecure about calling myself an editor, because what I'm doing and providing services to my clients is editing. That's what it is. So I don't need to
Yeah.
feel like, oh my gosh, they're gonna find me out. Oh my Lord. So it's just uncomfortable. Just
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But you can't always stay where you are. You just can't. So that's my very recent experience with imposter syndrome. What about you, Vimba? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but did you want to share anything else?
Yeah. So, I I often feel that. So I'm in a place in my business where I'm looking to expand and do things a little bit differently. So things that outside of what I would normally, the writing services that I would provide to clients. And I've also, brushed up a little bit on my skills and taken some courses. And I remember one in particular, this was specifically for copywriting. And like when you purchase a course and then you have all of this information. And I remember the coach saying, don't get stuck in the information gathering process, because many people will do that. So they'll get the course and then they have all these modules, and then you want to gain all of this information on all, you want to know everything so that when you approach your clients, you have all the answers. And so I remember him saying, no, that's not how you do it. You just learn what you need to know for that step, and then go out there and try that step. And then when somebody asks you, like email sequence, do you do that? Do you do that kind of marketing? And, naturally be like, hold on a second. Well, yeah, I've done it, but I'm still kind of fine tuning that and honing my skills. No, you just say, yes, I do it. And you figure that thing out as you're doing it. And so I've had that a lot when it comes to just trying to expand. And anyone who's been in a position where they're trying to scale up and do things a little differently business-wise, it's scary. It really is scary. There's no other word to use for it, because you're questioning yourself. And it's interesting because as a writer, there's often this thing that writers will say and just say that, writers are, we're very insecure people, right? When it comes to our work, like we often hold back and we're often hesitant to share and all of that, because until things are perfect, right? And that's where the perfectionist comes in when it comes to imposter syndrome. If this sentence is not perfect, if I did not find the perfect word to express what I want to express, the whole thing is garbage. And so I constantly have to talk to myself, talk through that, and remind myself that, no, I do have the chops. I am competent. I've been writing for many years. I know what I'm doing. And my clients tell me that. So it's reminding myself. And one thing that helps me, Mathisa, when I'm feeling like I don't know what I'm doing.
And what is that?
I look at my resume.
Your resume.
I read my resume and I look at all of the things that I've accomplished thus far. Like, okay, okay, girl, you got it. You got it. You can do this. You have the experience. You got the skills.
It's so interesting you say that, Vimba. I'm glad that you do that, because that was one of the things I was going to suggest that our listeners and viewers do. How to reframe imposter syndrome. So it's so interesting that you said that, because it works when you do that.
Yeah, you've got to remind yourself that you're a big deal.
Yeah, you're a big deal. Yeah, exactly. So could we go into ways to reframe imposter syndrome? What do you think?
Let's do that. Yeah, I think so. Let's get into what people can do. We've already talked about, just for me, it's reading my resume and just recording. I think it's important for us to record our wins. I don't think we do that enough. Just recording when we do get something done really well, and just keeping a record of things that we've accomplished and how well we've done them, whether it's comments that our clients or, people around give us, and the feedback we get. I think it's important to remind ourselves of those things.
It's very important. And so you can call that an accomplishments file or a brag folder. And just
brag folder, I love that.
Yeah, brag folder. Something that you have put every good word that your client has said about you, everything that you've accomplished that pertains to what you are feeling like a fraud about, like everything about that. Review it, just like what you do, Vimbai. Review it when you feel like that imposter syndrome is creeping up on you.
Yeah.
So that's important. One for me is set realistic expectations, right? Are you putting pressure on yourself to master something right now? Because I told you, I said, oh my gosh, do I feel like an expert even though I'm going into this new industry? I don't have to feel like I master everything. Um, so setting realistic expectations that I don't have to have all of the answers, but when I don't have an answer, I know of what to do. And there have been times where I don't know what to do. I don't know the answer to this, but let me look it up. Or actually, let me
Yeah.
ask around, because I'm actually a part of a couple of online uh, communities full of editors. So there have been times where I'm like, oh, I have a question. And then when people respond, I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for that, because it's helping me work that out in my mind. So setting realistic expectations is really important.
Yeah. That's a good
And
one.
yeah, and another thing, which is what we did earlier in this episode, is hearing other people's struggles. So
Hmm.
we heard of the late Maya Angelou, right? And how she struggled with imposter syndrome. Know that you're not alone. Know this is very common, right? And people who have been very successful and who are very successful, more often than not, they have actually had to combat imposter syndrome in some shape or fashion. So you're not
Mm.
alone. So that is good to know that you're not this anomaly, because you're not.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing I want to talk about, I mean, if you feel there's more than by, you can please do add, but accept that you'll make mistakes, because we
Hmm.
are human, and even the most successful people have made mistakes on their journey, right? And when you do make a mistake, um, know, like, are you able to correct it quickly? And if you're not able to correct it, just sometimes you have to own up to it. Like for me, like if I'm working with clients, I'm providing that service. If I make a mistake, I have to I own up to it. And actually, even in my day job, there have been times where I'm like, oh, this is my mistake. And I feel better about owning up to it, because I don't have to hold that with me. Right? I don't have to
Yeah.
feel like, oh my gosh, I made this mistake. No, I let it out. I told on myself, and I feel
Yeah.
good. I don't have to keep that with me.
Yeah. Those are all really good ways to combat imposter syndrome. Something that just came up as you were talking is not comparing yourselves to somebody else,
Oh yeah, that's
because
all.
the more you compare yourself and you look at other people and see, oh look, they've got it all together. Oh look at the other ones over there. Oh my goodness, I don't even know that, and they know that. I should know that. That kind of thing. I think there is a healthy way that we can kind of brush up on skills and find areas where we need to improve. But I think that when you recognize that you are an individual on your own path, and that there are many things that you have to offer, that come with your skill set, right? Like there's a lot of experience that may not really seem directly connected to your gifting, but all of that comes together, and you are just one unique package. And what you offer, no one else can offer. No one else can offer things exactly the way that you do. And so when you're able to recognize that, and you're able to say, okay, I am not going to look at the other people and kind of compare myself with them. I can look to them for inspiration, and just to get a sense of, what's out there in the field, what people are doing. But if you can learn to appreciate yourself as an individual and what you bring to the table, like the sky is the limit.
The
Once
sky
you
is the
recognize
limit.
that, we will walk around with a certain level of confidence and boldness, knowing that, okay, there's nobody else like me, and I can do this.
You can do this. I love that, Bimbai, because you're right. No one else does what you do exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
This might have to be another conversation, Bimbai. But I wonder though, what you said, I wonder if there's like a gender difference with men versus women experiencing imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the
That would be
time,
good to look into.
yeah, because think about it. A lot of the time women, we have to remind ourselves of our accomplishments, and sometimes what's common with women, especially with female service providers, is that you underprice your work because you feel like
Ooh, yes.
you feel like,
Ooh, that
oh,
is a can of
this is
worms.
this. Yeah, this is just I'm just doing this, but you know what? Or I've always done this. No, this is actually a real skill that you need to be charging for and charging appropriately. So that's why I wonder if there is a difference between men and women. I don't know. I feel like there would be, but we'd have to look
I
into
think
that.
there is. I
Yeah.
think there is. I think that men have I think they have an easier time setting prices and just being matter of fact about it. This is what it is. This is what's going to cost, and that's that. I think with women, I think you're right. I think there are a lot of other things that go into my mind. Oh my goodness, or it's like, oh, I really feel drawn to this, and I just want to be a part of it. I can, I know they don't have the kind of the money that I'm asking for, and they said their budget is smaller than what I would like, so I just want to help. I want to help them do this. And then, okay, that's fine. And then we just say we accept a lower price
Yeah.
for our services. So yeah, we should look into that for the next episode because we're going to continue this. We're going to do a part 2.
We're gonna
And in that, we will discuss the differences between men and women that we find. And we will have some other surprises that we're not going to tell you about yet.
love it. I love it. It's so true. So, I think that is a wrap, Vimbai, for this episode.
Yeah, you know what? A huge congratulations to us, Mathisa, because we have made it past season 1. There are a lot of podcasts that are just one season and then we don't hear about them again. And so we are back in season 2 and we have not slowed down. We're gaining momentum steadily. We're growing our numbers. Our audience is increasing. And we're just happy and excited to be here offering you, our valuable listeners and viewers, just a take on what we think abundant life is all about and sharing our experiences. And we want to hear from you. So please reach out to us on YouTube.
We want to hear from you. And can I just do my plug that I always do, Vimbai? What do I always say? Folks, what do I always say? If you're new, I will tell you now that if you have enjoyed this episode or you've enjoyed previous episodes of ours, more than likely there is someone else who would enjoy this as well, right? So we ask that you share this podcast episode. We're on YouTube now. Share the YouTube episode so that we can continue to have this conversation with more people, right? So that is our small ask. And now I have another ask. Subscribe. So if you like this, subscribe. Hit that button below and subscribe.
Yes, and you don't want to miss an episode, so make sure you click the notifications, and so that you are notified of each episode that we upload.
That's right. So,
and where else can they find us, Mathisa?
Abundance1010.com. Abundance1010.com will have all of our audio only episodes, and you will be able to listen to that with whatever you're doing, whether you're in the kitchen, you're working out, you're going for a walk. Take us along with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Include us in your day. We just want to be a part of your day and we want to get to know you. So please reach out to us. Email us at abundance1010.
Abundance1010.com. You'll be able to contact us through that website.
There we go. See, Mathisa has all the deets. She has that all down packed. So that's exactly how you can reach us. Please reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's on your mind. What do you think? What's your experience with imposter syndrome? Do you connect with any one of the 5 different types that we talked about? Let us know.
Let us know. All right. Yeah. Until next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, y'all. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, or if it's nighttime when you're watching this, have a good night. We can't wait to be back and doing this again. So take care for now.
Take care. Bye.